PDAI $2!
Freedom. Freedom is a word most people use like a $5 phrase. Freedom is similar to food and shelter. You will not miss it until it is gone. Today, mankind has never been closer to losing its collective freedom. Fortunately, there's a group of individuals in the PDAI community who are fighting for that freedom. Similar to the 300 Spartans that stood in the gap and fought off an invading army of Persians. Wars today are not fought behind swords and shields. They are fought in the hearts and minds of men and women on the technological battlefield. We ask all of you to join the PDAI Army and help stand in the gap and fight for the freedom of all of mankind.
Alrighty, welcome everybody to the Genesis Mindset. So this is the PDAI pre-show, and PDAI, it's a name that we all know. It's a name that means something different to as many different people as there are on Pulsechain and beyond it. But what really is PDAI? Is it the $1 peg? Is it the Atropa bonding? Is it the meme coin that has the blockchain under its spell? Or is it a real solution to a collapsing financial system? The PDAI conference isn't about price or price performance, although naturally these things will be discussed during the conference. But what it's really about is bringing together the community in all its varied perspectives and letting truth emerge out of that gathering of hearts and minds. If PDAI is as important as many of us feel it to be, then we all need to work together to win together. This is far too big and far too important just to be left to someone else to do it for us. Because if this doesn't work, that's it. When you really listen to the clip that Bud had just before, this is it. We're entering a world of CBDCs and digital slavery. And with the emergence of the power of AI, the opportunity for true freedom could be gone forever. Never before in financial history has the balance been so precarious, but never before have we, the people, had an opportunity to have our voices, our hearts, and our minds be heard, to give birth to what could be the first and last opportunity for a truly sovereign exchange of value on the planet. So in this pre-show, we'll go over why we think this is a vitally important for the financial world and for your future, as well as a teaser of the conference that's coming up on the 10th of the 10th, and how you can contribute in your own way. Because really, in the end, unless we're all doing it together, then can we really say it's DeFi? Are we just deluding ourselves that anything less than all of our combined blood, sweat, and tears is even DeFi? I hope at least today we can impress the importance upon you and open your heart and mind to just how significant this moment in time is. So thank you very much, everybody, for being here. Let's win together. And welcome, Bud. Welcome, Steve.
Good morning, Stephen.
Thanks,
How are
Steve.
you?
Good morning, guys.
How are we, gentlemen?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Just excited about the conference. I think we've got some really great speakers coming up, real good content. Really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a powerful thing.
And how
Absolutely.
about yourself, Steve?
I'm doing well. I've got a bit of a tickle in my throat, so forgive me if I head off microphone so I don't cough in everyone's ears. But yes, I'm doing very well, and I am thankful and grateful to be here, and I'm thankful for the community. I'm just looking through some of these comments early on already.
And look
doing
at Steve's
pretty well.
badass background, just FYI.
Yeah, thank you. I don't even have my screens on today, but yeah, it's coming along. Obviously, I can't wait for the conference. Appreciate you organizing it, Stephen. Absolutely. I just want to give a big shout out to Steve. Steve is been busting his hump for all of us here. It's really a team effort, but Steve has taken the lead, and I just really want to express that and my appreciation of that personally.
And I just want to say on that, I really do appreciate you saying that, Steve. And I really want to emphasize that, to be perfectly honest, if there wasn't this feeling of being involved in a team, I probably wouldn't even care. Because there's other people that are interested in it. I've got people sending me videos. I've got people sending me content, people wanting to speak. I got you guys. Like, it's really like this beautiful team atmosphere. So without that, it would be really dead, to be honest. So
it has been really cool. We created the profile picture frame for Twitter, and I think last time I checked, there was over 220 people who had built a personalized PDAI Conference profile picture frame, which is really cool to see people come out and see people that I didn't know before and didn't meet in the community, sporting those colors, so to speak, for the cause. And so I'm excited to meet people, and I've had people reach out pre-conference and to make new friends and new connections. I think is really important.
Yeah, and even on that, the spirit with which these things were created. So it really seems like my computer's really lagging a lot, but here's a little snippet of this, and we kind of, even this was like this iterative process where you'd made something and then I worked on it and refined it, and then we were happy with the result, and then we just started spreading it everywhere. We put it on our own, and then we started spreading it everywhere, and then people started spreading it for others, and it's everywhere now, and people are seeing, and you're starting to see the positive comments and the negative comments about it, but eyeballs are on it, which is really, really, really cool. So yeah, good on. This was a good call, Steve.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd seen some other causes, do something similar, and I sensed the hesitation. Coexistence was like, I don't know, but he let me go on with it anyway. I was like, let's give it a try. It's free. Let's try it out, and the community's really jumped on it, and to see big names and small. There's the gray currency I just saw go by. That's and then Liberty Swap, of course, has changed their profile picture, and so a number of big players, and then again, like small ones. Some people came in and made multiple. They'd make 2 or 3 different ones, I guess, so they could change their profile picture over time, which is really cool. So yeah, it's 200. It was over 220 unique visitors. I think the actual number of people that came, it was over 400. So the average person came, more than once, which is really exciting.
That is really cool, because I've also made a ton for people as well. So that is really, really cool. So yeah, definitely.
Which is still an option. That's still an option. If you guys are, you're not as tech savvy, hop on the if you're on Twitter, you're on X, hop over there and comment on the Twitter, the PDAI Conference Twitter. Hey, can you guys help me out with a profile pic? And we absolutely will. We've got a great team of volunteers that do creative work and do memes and do pictures, and we can crank this out for you in no time.
Yeah, and then really just that is just a small contribution of energy towards the conference, and I think that's really important. So very, very cool to see the atmosphere that's growing. So all right, gentlemen, so let's get underway with where we're headed for this conference. So the whole idea of today is to really set the scene, set the tone. So this is a pre-show of the conference, and so what we really want to go into is the importance of stable coins in this world of CBDC. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start by reading a particular document. So I'm just going to share my screen, and let me just bring this one up. I'll have to start that one again. And what we will do in the meantime is I'm going to have some cute little background music for this as well. All right, so let me load this bad boy up. Okay, so this is pretty much mostly Bud's writing, and then, as always, running it through AI and refining it. So it's a collaborative effort of what this actually is. We've tried to make it simple and clear for everybody to understand. So what is a stablecoin really? A stablecoin is a type of cryptocurrency that's designed to stay pegged to a real-world asset, usually the US dollar. You've probably heard of USDC, USDT, DAI, and now we have PDAI, which is the fork of DAI. So on the surface, they all seem similar, fast, stable, usable in DeFi. But when you look deeper, the differences couldn't be more important. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. that definitely feels like AI saying something, right? But most stablecoins today are centralized. They can freeze your wallet, they can block your transactions, they comply with every regulation, even when those regulations violate your rights. So what you think that you own can be reversed with one phone call. So that's not really sovereignty, that's fiat with a better UX. The world is changing and so is money. So we're not living in ordinary times. We're watching the world's financial order restructure in real time. I've even heard rumors when there'd be a government shutdown, things would be getting changed and shifted. And there was most definitely one, I believe that there's one in America at the moment. So global trade is shifting, old alliances are breaking, new blocks are forming. And underneath all of it, there's a silent war over who controls value. This war isn't being fought with tanks, or at least not yet. It's being fought with interest rates, capital controls, blacklists, asset seizures, regulatory choke points. And the more unstable things get, the more people, businesses, and even countries will seek stablecoins as a safe haven. So here's some key real-world dynamics to be aware of. So first, the global political climate is shifting. We're seeing the rise of nationalism and hemispheric alliances, so different parts of the planet, alongside the fall of globalism. So large infrastructure projects like China's Silk Road continue to reshape trade, linking Shanghai to London and bringing the African continent into its orbit. Meanwhile, Europe faces massive migration, economic decline, and signs that the euro is losing long-term viability. Add into the mix the war that's going on currently between AI and dominance over the AI and the financial future of AI, and this really puts a lot of energy into this part of the world. So some theories like Tom Luongo's suggest high US interest rates have been used intentionally to bankrupt foreign governments, especially in Europe. Rather than internal conflict between US leadership and the Federal Reserve, Luongo proposes strategic collaboration between Trump and Powell to draw capital back into the US. World War III may already be underway, so not as a shooting war, but as a financial one. Large US-based firms are acquiring collateralized debt tied to war zones. Ukraine, for example, has used farmland as collateral, with BlackRock reportedly holding that debt. If repayment fails, physical assets across allied nations may be seized or restructured. The result of all this is massive capital flight into US assets, as described by Brent Johnson's dollar milkshake theory. This pushes US stocks, land, and inflation higher while interest rates remain elevated. The front end of the US yield curve will steepen dramatically. And to refinance that debt, stablecoins. By 2035, stablecoin issuers could be holding over 80% of all short-term US Treasury bills. This is not just macro theory, it's the stage upon which your financial freedom or your control will be decided. So the rise of the stablecoin empire. What all this means is private crypto companies, not banks, basically effectively will be underwriting the US debt machine. And every one of those stablecoins is subject to the same compliance pressure. Blacklist this wallet, freeze this address, reverse this transfer. The line between stablecoins and CBDCs is disappearing. So where does this leave you? If you're someone who holds digital assets, runs a business, lives in a country with capital restrictions, values privacy, sovereignty, or just the freedom to use your money as you see fit, then here's the question. When things get difficult, who gets to decide what you can and can't do with your money? The answer for most stablecoins is someone else gets to decide that. So the PDAI difference, it's a different kind of stablecoin built on Pulsechain, which exists outside of US jurisdiction. PDAI is censorship resistant, immutable, not controlled by a single company or government, not governed by any person, board, or backdoor switch. And most importantly, it offers something the modern world forgot was possible, a allodial title, which is the absolute, unshakable right to your own assets. So even as Bud has pointed out many times, we think we own our assets, we think we own our house, but we don't. We don't own any of it. You do not have a allodial title to anything that you own in this modern financial world. But on Pulsechain, you do have a allodial title. You and you alone own your assets. This is not a privilege, not as a privilege, as a principle, as a return to the natural order of value. If this had existed in 2008, the financial collapse may have played out differently. So this is why we're hosting the conference, because this is not just about PDAI. It's about understanding how stablecoins are evolving, how they'll impact global power, and what role that we want to play in shaping the next financial system. The conference will feature speakers from across DeFi and, well, that's definitely AI, because I should have edited that, and macro finance. I don't think we have, I mean, we've got people talking about macro finance, but we don't have specific speakers who would be well regarded within the macro financial world. Definitely one day in future PDAI conferences. So debates between pro and anti PDAI thinkers. And on that, I have just put a Twitter out today asking for people's questions and curiosities about what they want answered. Obviously, there's been things that have been answered repeatedly, but go check out that tweet. Open mics. So we're going to invite the whole community. They can come up. We're going to send out the link. We're also going to have panels where all the invited speakers can join. And we're also going to have audience participation throughout the whole entire conference. And then we'll also have dedicated speaker segments where it's just going to be perhaps a video from a particular speaker who couldn't attend. We're going to have memes. We're going to have music. We're going to have the real culture, not just charts. We're going to have the actual culture of PDAI. So as you saw at the very start of this, we had the countdown. We also had the PDAI to dollar. We're going to really be showcasing all the culture and all the artists and creators within PDAI, because there's actually so many of them. They make music, they make memes, they make images, they make videos. It's a very, very rich culture that we want to showcase and share. And so a live truth ledger where your voice becomes part of the signal. So we're still figuring out how we're going to go about this. But in any case, join us because you care, not because you agree. We're not here to push a narrative. We're here to open a space for dialogue. You'll walk away understanding why stable coins are the front line of financial freedom, why decentralization matters now more than ever, and why PDAI, small as it may seem, could be the spark that lights a global fire. The PDAI conference is more than an event. It's a mirror of what decentralized finance could look like when powered by sincerity, knowledge, and community. So if you're feeling the call, not just to learn, but to help lead humanity into a freer future, then this is where it begins. All right.
Nice stuff. Yeah, I know there's a number of things that came up for me there. I should have been taking notes. I think the biggest thing for me in that there's a couple things that I just wanted to reflect to. One was a couple things, CBDCs. Yeah, if you guys remember those have been around for a little bit. Last cycle, CBDCs were the big thing, right? That was central banking digital currencies, right? So essentially central banks or government entities printing or issuing digital currency on a blockchain technology. And so there's a lot of talk then about, what's it going to be? Is it going to be on XRP? Is it going to be on Ethereum? Is it going to be a new, government run layer one? And my genuine thinking, and this is just my thinking, but I'd be willing to bet, I'd be interested to see in the comments who agrees with me that I just think it was so unpopular that the government had to shift gears. And so we get situations like the Genius Act. We get situations, like what is it, the Clarity Act after this, that essentially, in my mind, convert the grand majority of stable coin projects into CBDCs. So it was a can't beat them, join them kind of thing, I think. So I think that, it's important to realize that going forward, especially after these kind of controversial and definitely controversial legislations, that your favorite stablecoin, whether that's USDC or USDT or USDS or whatever it is, if it is issued by an entity under the jurisdiction of the United States, which is fairly broad, that's important to remember. That means that it is located within the jurisdictional limits of the U.S., but also if it offers this token to U.S. citizens. There's a couple other qualifiers there. It has to be issuable one-to-one with a stable currency. What's interesting there is that the law opened up the possibility for it not just to be U.S. dollars. It could be a different stable, such as a gold stable. Essentially, under a large majority there, you do become a bank. So, I think that was listing there, Steve, that that you're run by the bank is running the financial or the government's control of these. Well, these projects effectively become banks, and those banks are under jurisdiction. It's a unity. It's one. They're the same thing now. And so PDAI is really important because from our interpretation, it is uniquely not that. There's a number of things. I'll pull it up, maybe because I'm interested to see what Bud thinks about this. But I'll pull up the qualifications that must be met to be considered under that CBDC light jurisdiction, and PDAI doesn't fall under any of them, which is really, really interesting. Bud, what do you think?
Well, I think there's two ways to look at stablecoins: how it affects me personally, and then what does it do to the control grid and the government and debt. So the obvious, as we've spoke about many times, let's talk about a personal level, is it returns the sovereignty to the individual, right? That's what PDAI is. All these stable coins on Ethereum do not have that. When they were issued, when you go through the Genius Act, all of these stable coins are going to be issued by private companies. Mm-hmm. This act skirts the U.S. Constitution. In the U.S. Constitution, it says that the Treasury is the only entity that shall issue currency. So they've worked around it in order to make it legal, right? And why is that important? Because all those stable coins that are issued by private companies, like it said in that document, are one phone call away from locking down a wallet. So you don't own any of it, right? You're right. Putting all of your value at risk if you're in stable coins on ETH. And it's a central bank digital currency, but instead of it being controlled by the central bank, it's controlled by private companies.
It's more insidious.
Right. Yes, it's very insidious. When you look at it from a financial aspect, I did a lot of research on this to see, and I used AI. I started, just using Grok, asking questions to figure out the power of what's coming. And most people don't spend time thinking about the bond curve and the bond market, and it's the biggest market in the world, right? So in that document, it said by 2035, I think the number was it projected using Moore's law and trends, 82.3% of short-term debt would be held by these stablecoin issuing companies. So you're seeing a shift in global finance, right? Like right now we have foreign countries holding US debt. Well, China's scaling down, they're selling their debt. When you think of bond markets, right? Bond prices go up when there's less demand. When there's more demand, prices come down. So as all these foreign governments are getting out of US short-term treasuries, it's hard for the Fed to pull that number down. So what are they going to do? Well, in the Genius Act, it states that all of these companies have to hold US treasuries as collateral when they issue the stablecoin. Well, you've just created this brand new financial system that's going to create all this demand on the treasury, which will suppress the interest rate on those treasuries. And then when you go through the Genius Act, all of the treasuries, the majority of their assets held by these companies have to be basically liquid assets, treasuries less than 93 days. Okay, so there's some money market stuff in there, but it's generally short-term treasuries, like the 3-month treasury and less than. Why is that important from a US standpoint? Because it's going to, as you increase the demand through these stable coins, it's going to pull that front end of that bond curve down. It's going to suppress that. Why is that important? Because the United States has $37 trillion of debt, right? So at 5%, it was like $2 trillion a year. But if you can slip that number down into a 2 handle, right, then they can continue on with the shenanigans. That's why it's so important. So when you look at the bond market, and I know this isn't what people in crypto are super interested in, but global macro is what this is all about, okay? You need to understand, you're going to see the bond market, once stablecoins start, it's going to be very low on the front end, the 30-day, 60-day, 90-day treasury, very low, like 1%, 2%, something around there. And then it's going to ramp up to like 5% and kind of flatten out. That's going to be the new bond curve, right? And we'll be able to continue with the shenanigans because we'll be able to continue with the debt just because of this brand new buyer. So they're offsetting US debt by issuing these stable coins. That's really, really important for people to understand.
Right, they're just moving money around, right? They're just in order to keep up the games they've been doing for the last 50 years, 75 more.
Right. And so where are we right now?
Sorry, Bud.
Right.
Are these the bond curves here? U.S. government bonds? Does this look accurate to you?
No, you could go to no. That's not the curve. I would be going to like CNBC/treasuries, and it can show you a chart of CNBC.com/treasuries, and it will show you what the current up-to-date bond market looks like. And we were inverted for a while, which is a precursor to recession, but we've since steepened the curve, right? So let this populate. It's not populating, huh?
No, it says can't find the page that you're looking for. Treasury.
Go bonds, /bonds. Yeah, this is what you want to see. Now click on US Treasuries. See, now scroll that up. When you start looking at those percentages, right? So you got the 1 month at 4%, and then, but it starts to go down just a little, but then it starts to steepen again. It's basically within that range. So it's a very flat to a slightly accelerating. Now go all the way down. You're showing the 2 month. What is that at the bottom? US
3.9.
Yeah, the 30-year.
Sorry.
No, you're right. It's okay. The 30-year go up, Stephen. The US 30-year right now is like at 4.753. Right. So that's long-term debt. Like you're sub 5. That's going to steepen because people are going to start to lose faith. You're going to see like between and interest rates on housing markets are set between the 2-year and the 10-year. And I think in America, because you're going to see so much pressure, you're going to see accelerate. Let me back up. What I project in the future, as far as interest rates and bond markets, very low at the front. Then it's going to accelerate to the 2-year, and the 2-10 is going to continue that up and to the right. And then the last end of the curve is going to go high because people are going to lose faith in the 30-year, right? Because the politicians are not going to quit printing.
Sorry, but can we just pause for 1 second? Because when you talk about the yield, like even the yield curve, so just explain to me like I'm 5, because the yield curve, that's the interest rate of repayment.
So anybody can get on and buy US Treasuries, right? Like if you have money in your bank account, you can set up an account and go in and start to purchase these things, and then you're getting interest on your money, right?
Okay, gotcha. Yep.
Right. Instead of just leaving it in a checking account where it gets 0 interest. So the front end of the curve is where US debt is set, right? That's our refinancing. Like that's how the US government churns money, is on the front end, the 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, right? Mm-hmm. The US housing is set between the 2-year and the 10-year, okay? So that's where that interest rate is. And then 30-year is a speculation as to where you see the US going in 30 years. You're buying those bonds with a projection that, you know, if you think it's coming down and you buy a 30-year treasury, that thing doesn't mature for 30 years. So you're locked up in that interest rate per annum. I think what we're going to see with the rejiggering of the economy, the rejiggering of global trade, the end of globalism, the emergence of hemispheric alliances, is the front end of the US bond market is going to be very low, so the US can refinance its debt. But we're going to see inflation in America while the rest of the world deflates. All the money is coming into the United States or like US stable coins. A lot of purchasing power is going to be held there. You know, this idea that the dollar is going to fail is nonsense. It's not going to happen. There's no other country that has the capital markets of the US that, even like the BRICS, they are not big enough or strong enough to replace the US dollar as a global reserve currency. It's not happening. And there's people a lot smarter than me that are saying this exact same thing. Okay. So what does that mean in America? Everybody thinks that maybe the interest rates will come down, they can buy a house. No, not happening, man. There's going to be more money chasing the same amount of goods, which means prices are going to continue up, which equals inflation. Okay. As money leaves foreign shores and comes here, there's less money abroad chasing the same items. So prices are going to deflate. Global investment's going to come down, right? You're going to have a bifurcated world. It's not going to be a global economy as far as inflation, deflation is concerned. You're going to have inflation in America and deflation around the world. And everybody in America, like, this is, the haves are going to get more and the have-nots are going to get less, unfortunately. That's just what it is, man. And
which is the history of our money, right? Like that's the last 100 years plus, at least.
Right. It's not that I'm not saying this stuff because I support it. I'm just trying to give an honest evaluation of where I see things going. Okay. So inflation in America, rising house prices, rising food costs, rising everything, a larger growth in the wealth and income gap. It's not good. It's not good.
Mass continued inflation.
Yeah, and that's what is, if people move into these stable coins on ETH, you're adding to the problem, because when you buy a stable coin on ETH, you're giving that private company the ability to go purchase more US treasuries.
Not just the ability, but I want to point out there, not just the ability, the mandate. They're actually required to 1-to-1, 100% reserve.
You're exactly right. So by participating in stable coins on ETH, you're bringing that future forward. Okay. So don't do it. Be the change you want to see. Yeah,
I want to point out too, I mean, beyond this, just from my perspective personally, and I maybe there's some viewers out there that follow it. I guess I come from a more of a cypherpunk kind of perspective of if you value privacy, there's all this like bond stuff doesn't connect with you. Like if you value privacy, think about CBDCs. Why were they an issue? If the government's got their fingers in your pie, say goodbye to privacy, right? There's no reason for a traditional judicial process. There's no reason for search warrants. There's no reason for wiretaps. If we can watch every transaction that you make, who you made it with, and where you were when you spent it. That's the future of centralized stablecoins. That's the future. That's the CBDC future. Of course the government wants that. Of course they want to be able to dip into your life and say, oh, he bought $15 of groceries over here and he tipped the bartender over there. And you add algorithms to that say, well, he must really like that bartender. He tips her more than another one. Like, this is like kind of futurist thought now, but like that's the future, and your privacy is absolutely gone. Where you are, what you do, who you interact with, how much money you have, where you have it, all of that disappears with this. So I just brought up, Stephen, I think I can present, right? Can I share a screen here really quick? Yeah, so I just pulled. Okay, yeah, here. So I've just pulled up. I've just asked ChatGPT what makes a coin not subject to the Genius Act, and PDAI fans will take a look at this list and kind of chuckle. Not subject if the token isn't pegged or marketed as stable. Ping pong coin, Sami. So there's no expectation of fixed value there. There's no redemption for fiat or a fixed amount. So in other words, there's not a promise of a one-to-one exchange. So maybe it trades for 99 cents. Maybe it trades for $1.05. Who knows? It's not used as a means of payment. This one's interesting. The Genius Act actually refers to this stable payment coin. So primarily the use would be to exchange value. And I think USDC falls under that quite a lot. USDT has a really strong worldwide use case as an exchange token. There's a lot of global centralized exchanges that primarily have pairs with USDT. But from my experience, USDC is primarily used to pay people. So again, if there's a governance, staking, or speculative element to it, then it doesn't fall under the Genius Act. Issued by a decentralized protocol with no identifiable issuer. That's interesting. Issued by a decentralized protocol. Now, earlier in this, while you all were speaking, it was talking about Aave and Maker on ETH would fall into it, even though they're a decentralized protocol. They fall into it for those other reasons, that there is a promise of a one-to-one exchange and an expectation of a fixed value and a set entity to regulate, which is the next one issued. So the entity to regulate, who do we regulate? That's the uniqueness of PDAI. Who do you regulate? There's no headquarters, right? That's true for Pulsechain overall. There's no headquarters. There's no CEO. Who are you sending this summons to? Who are you sending this, these documents to? There's not even a mailbox, right? That's not true with every other project. Issued and operated outside the US. Well, we had that groundbreaking ruling on Richard Hart's case with Pulsechain that it was not determined to be inside the jurisdiction of the United States. Interesting. Backed only by crypto or algorithmic.
Steve,
yeah, go ahead.
Pause on that right there. The ruling from Judge Amen was the most powerful thing to ever happen in finance. I don't think people appreciate how important that ruling was, right? Because you have the three, Pulsex, Hex, were ruled to not be securities.
Right.
And that Pulsechain doesn't land under the purview of the SEC, nor does it reside in the US. Okay. The importance of that, so people get it. This will never happen again. You will never have another blockchain, no other fork will ever come to life that falls into that category. Okay. This is it. This is the only shot. That is so important. That is why Pulsechain matters so much. Okay. You're never going to get a ruling and then get past the appeals process. In the United States, you have double jeopardy. They cannot come after Pulsechain again. It's been decided. Okay, so if this project fails, you'll never have another decentralized blockchain that has ruling that says it lives outside of the United States.
So, Bud, why would we not have another blockchain that has that ruling? Do you think?
You saw Vitalik talk about the stablecoins just yesterday, the day before, and about how it might be time to fork. Okay, well, that fork's still going to live under the purview of the SEC.
Right. If it's done by the same people.
It's done by the same people. It's going to reside inside of the United States. And the importance of it is the stablecoin is the killer app. It's not Hex. It's not Pulsex. That's not the killer app. Stable coins have the best product market fit as we move into the digital age. Everybody who's followed Richard has heard it said. It's all about product market fit. Okay. It's transacting in commerce to everything. So,
and the avoidance of the bear market, that you don't have to every 4 or 5 years, you don't have to, have this mass exodus of the markets back into banks. That's a dangerous idea if you're an established authority, right? The idea that, people can go play with their poop coins, but at the end of the day, they're going to come back to Daddy US Bank. And if you have a significantly decentralized token where that doesn't have to happen, suddenly, that's a big threat for the powers that be.
Right. How many people, say somebody else spins up a blockchain. All right. I don't think people appreciate the amount of cost that Richard Hart incurred defending Pulsechain. Those lawyers are a couple $1,000 an hour, $1,500 to $2,000 an hour, right? And he had 10 of them. And when you go and you watch that, how much preparatory work was put into the defense of Pulsechain? How many people have the liquidity, have the means to spin up a chain that can take on the SEC, that can take on the United States government and win, right? It's never going to happen again. This is it. And people just don't seem to catch just how important that ruling from Judge Amon was.
And I think not only is it, the reason why I ask you is because I really want to impress upon people that there was one comment you made about it being like threading a camel through a needle, or using that analogy, where the sequence of events that have led to this moment where we actually have this opportunity with PDAI on this decentralized blockchain with this ruling, there's all these sequence of events that the percentage was so slim, and yet here we are. And so for another blockchain, I mean, Ripple's been fighting the SEC for how long? And it's not an easy process. And I just feel like with CBDCs coming and with regulatory clarity coming, there's going to be more and more ways to make it more and more difficult for blockchains to have that kind of freedom.
Yeah, I think Pulsechain kind of snuck under the radar. I think people were sleeping on Richard Hart. They kind of relegated him to the confines of a clown. Here's this goofy guy in his tracksuits and his watches, and there he is. But I want to point out that Richard didn't have to do this. Notice how he's not really doing anything with the Interpol FUD, like the Interpol situation. He didn't have to go to court. He wasn't in the United States at the time. This fight that took years and likely millions of dollars, he could have easily just faded into obscurity and taken the SAC funds and done whatever he wanted. He didn't. He stayed and he fought, which is a lot of times when I start to because I've been tested. I'm sure you all have. I have been tested about my faith in PDAI, in that things haven't worked out the way we wanted to. The maker protocol, that was a big blow for us. And the thing to point out here is that Richard, I think it's possible Pulsechain was developed specifically for DAI. That this was the chain of events for years. People talk about 14D chess and all this kind of stuff, and I think there's no better indicator. If this works out, which from what Bud is saying, this kind of has to work out, because when Bud says there won't be another situation, that isn't oh no, nobody's going to do it like this. It's that no, they won't let it happen again. Oh, we got this ruling again. You're a power that be. You don't like that. You're not going to let another situation like this occur. So whether this was meant to be or not, here it is. This is it. But I come from the perspective of I kind of feel like this was all going this way. How many times has he talked about stable coins over the years? We've all seen those video compilations. This has been in his mind for a very long time. And I think despite everything, it very well could be possible that this type of clarity and this type of governmental goal was the point all along. Like, I always thought it was really, really dumb that the SEC tried to sue him to begin with. Forever, for years, he talked about how like his project would be the stupidest, like the least likely to be called a security, and then here it came, and I was like so surprised when that came through. And then later on, I thought, was that part of the plan? Like, did he call them? Like, did he tip himself off? Did he bring that lawsuit on so that he could drag this in court, so that he could prove it and actually have that clarity? We can never know, but it's an interesting thought.
I want to bring 2 points together. Stephen talked about the sequence of events and how we've thread a camel through the eye of a needle. And when the statement you made, Steve-O, of having your faith tested. So this is good versus evil. That's what this is. And when you look at the sequence of events, like in America, had Trump lost, that would have been it, right? Like the control arm would have just cracked down on everything in a Harris administration. So we slipped through there. Richard winning the SEC case. This is bigger than just money. This is about the freedom of humanity and having your faith tested, right? And this Somi has said it's a believer cycle, okay? If those of us in the community don't promote this, and what's so powerful about this is there's no centralized vector for attack. If they come after anybody on this screen or anybody in the community, it doesn't matter. We have 50,000 validators worldwide, and it's only going to grow, right? This is a place of freedom. That's what this chain is. This is the only freedom chain, not just PDAI. It's all of Pulsechain is the freedom chain. And, you know, like when I had the debate with RH Max, and he's like, why doesn't Richard just pull out his own stable coin? Well, obviously because it would get him killed, right? Everybody who's ever challenged the powers that be, whether it's Muammar Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, the guy who invented the MakerDAO, he died in 8 inches of water. Like, that is a guaranteed path to death, okay? So you're never going to see Richard or any individual survive the launch of a stablecoin. And that's why there's been so much obfuscation. That's why there's been so much misdirection. That's why we've had so many people get shaken out over this thing. You either believe at some point in your life, you have to trust and you have to have faith. You have to believe, okay? There's no guarantees. None of us on this screen have a crystal ball, but I can see two paths. And if enough of us believe, if we manifest this reality together as every single sovereign human, we can create, at least in finance, freedom. Or we can comply and we're headed into digital slavery and nothing matters at that point.
I think the depth of that, it's almost too much to comprehend at this particular time. You know, we've had discussions about this, Bud, about this whole idea of good versus evil. And it's something that I've thought about a lot. We've talked about the book of Revelations, and we've talked about these forces that control the world. And you shared that video with me, which I'll share with everybody after, this Tucker Carlson one with the occult guy. And it really is like this. And the people who are on the side of evil, they don't even realize they're on the side of evil. Their minds are so entombed within themselves, they don't even realize they're on the side of evil. They think that they're doing something right for the world, but all they're doing is wasting their energy for darkness. And so it's a really fascinating thing, because the way that I see it, this is really one of the important parts about PDAI for me, is really it needs the right mindset and the right consciousness behind it. You know, I'm all for this move, I'll put a lot of my time and energy behind it, but I'm not interested in this move, and I don't think it will work if we transplant the same mindset of the old system into this new system. And what that means is every single system has ended up collapsing at some point or another because of the human mind. And so when I talk about evil, it's the human mind, which is the evil thing. So we talk about these spirits and these forces, like humans become possessed by these forces. And yeah, they're watching us all the time. They're in every corner of the governments, they're in every corner of power, really. Who are the good guys? You don't even know.
That's the delineation there. Evil's from the mind, good comes from the heart. You hear people talk about, I think a lot of society lives in a headspace. They make decisions. They do what they think is best for them. Sometimes when you're making those decisions, it feels bad. You're not listening to what's inside you. There's something in there. You have something inside of you telling you what is the right thing. And that is the light. That's where God's at, right? You live, the prophetic word wants you to live from your heart, right? Be kind, take care of others. Live from that space. Don't live from the head space, okay? So you're either part of the good consciousness or you're facilitating the bad. And if you're part of, like, to make it mean something, those of you that are participating in these stable coins on ETH, you are putting the chains around your ankles, man. You're going into slavery and you're dragging the rest of us there with you. I'm kicking and fighting and screaming the whole way. I'm not going into the slave mode. I won't do it. And if enough of us stand up, if enough of us fight back, we are going to win. God is on our side. Okay? It's not a matter of if. We will win. That's all there is to it. Evil cannot outdo good.
It can't. It's simple as that.
I love Steve's energy. He cracks me up. I think for me, just to add to that, Bud said he's Bud's a cowboy. Bud says he's not going to go down, unless he's fighting, right? He's going to die with his guns on. And I get that, and a part of me feels that, but I also want to point out here that this might be the only peaceful way out. That adopting a currency like this to avoid a future like what we're describing, just to review, mass inflation, surveillance state far beyond what we already have, government control, the loss of all privacy, frozen money, repossessed money, blacklisting commerce, right? Not being able to do business. The only path I much prefer, to come from a place of no thanks. Like, I'm just going to opt out. No thanks. It reminds me of the dropout movement with the hippies, hippies in the late 60s, early 70s that just left, built a commune. They said, we don't need money. And I think in the world we're in today, I need money. I want money. I need some type of currency. And I choose PDAI to adopt because it may be our only chance to do this without some type of violent bloodshed that's going to cause a loss of life and a lot of resources. So you talk about a battle between good and evil. I much prefer not it. Nope, that's somebody else. That's somebody else. That's not us. It doesn't qualify. That doesn't. Which has led me to, again, the futurist thought of what if down the road PDAI works out the way we think it does? What if there is this hyperloop that others have talked about? What if Pulsechain, vampire attacks, Ethereum? What if it is one of the largest global currencies, global stores of value in the world on Pulsechain? What if we do get our own economic zone and Hexaco or Pulseco or whatever is a reality? I think, okay, well, that's cool. I like that. I like that future a lot more. And I think that there is a logical path. It's not all pipe dreams. I think the groundwork that's being laid, the camel through the eye of a needle sort of thing, we're already seeing a lot of that. So will it all work out? I don't know. But I can see a world where it works out and we're issued maybe it's a blockchain based, a pulse chain based passport that we can show on our phones and say, no, thank you. Your law doesn't apply to me. I'm a foreign diplomat. I'm only visiting here, and I'm a citizen of Pulsechain, and so your laws don't apply to me. Thank you very much.
This is a good question right here. If we're trying so hard to separate ourselves from the system, why are we trying so hard to peg our value to the dollar? Okay. There is no such thing as doing a 180. Okay. When you think about global finance, all right, like I've said before, the Eurodollar system, that's US debt held outside of the United States. The last estimate I saw was somewhere between $500 and $750 trillion. Okay. If we're going to get to where we want to go, there's going to be intermediary steps. And we have to have a dollar peg so that we can move away from it. You've got to have an exchange of value. You don't want to bring chaos. Chaos brings death. Okay. So you don't want to just rip the entirety down and start from scratch. There's too many billions of people that live on the planet. Okay. We have to have a transition. We have to have something that's not going to cause death as we move into a new system. You know, this is going to be a 10-year, 15, 20-year deal. Okay. This isn't like, I know a lot of people see, well, PDAI is going to peg and I'm going to do this. Well, you're going to buy what? Yeah. You're going to buy something that can be seized, right? Anytime that you transfer value outside of the chain, you're buying an asset that can be seized. I don't care what it is. Buy a car, it's going to get seized. Buy a house, it can be seized, right? Put it into Ethereum, stuff can be frozen.
Yep. Unless
you're going to buy physical gold, the safest place in the world to store value is on Pulsechain.
Well, even physical gold, what are you going to do? You're going to keep it under your mattress, and then they're going to come to your house, and they'll take that too.
Right. Right. Like this is the safest place to store value in the entirety of the world. This is better than Swiss bank accounts.
Which brings us to this. You know, we touched on this. For those that don't know, allodial title is a fairly new concept to me. I hadn't heard it probably before a year ago. And interestingly, how the universe lines up and stuff. I was looking into sovereignty and allodial title a couple of months prior to meeting Bud. And, you know, this stems from this idea. Originally, allodial title refers to land. And so it's an issuance of ownership, normally from a monarch in times when the monarch was considered ordained by God. So there is no higher authority than allodial title. The opposite of that is a feudal system, which is interesting. You can go to ChatGPT yourself and ask them about allodial title versus modern fee simple titles that we have now. And our current system much more closely resembles a feudal system. In other words, you're allowed to have this property, whether it's land or personal property or whatever, as long as we say so. As long as we like the things you say, as long as you behave, as long as you pay, you know, you pay Uncle Sam or whoever your Uncle Sam equivalent, you know, as long as you get in line. And so when we talk about allodial, and we're not the only ones talking about this. Michael Saylor was talking about this not that long ago with Bitcoin, and I would agree with that. It properly done, Bitcoin could be allodial, but there's very few assets. There's probably a couple of others. There's very few assets that can actually be owned. That they can't pry the 12 words out of your brain that controls them. Which brings up a whole lot of other like really interesting discussions. I saw a video a while back from Richard Hart where he was talking about what does it even mean to own something on a blockchain, right? If I go down to the local car rental place down the street, and they hand me a set of keys, and I'm driving the car down the road to go on vacation with my family, do I own that car? No, I have the use of it. What does it even really mean? Which brings up all sorts of really wonderful ambiguity for Pulsechain. What does it mean to, if you have even the keys, right? The keys are our master. Does that mean ownership, or does it mean control? And I would like to present that like true ownership, a allodial title, a allodial ownership doesn't mean a lot if you don't actually have control. And outside of Bitcoin, maybe if it's done really intentionally, and PDAI on Pulsechain, I don't know if anything exists. And of course, like the benefits of PDAI over, the future vision we see of PDAI over BTC can't be understated. There's so much, just the ability to use smart contracts. Right? Number one, the ability eventually to approach a peg, or to have some equivalent or ping pong like exchange. The ability to not have to leave a market and be subject to all this volatility. All the things that Richard Hart has talked about for years. So
when you talk about allodial title, this conversation has been had for hundreds of years, and it was really argued best between John Locke and Hobbes, right? And John Locke, I think it was in the 1600s, was pushing for natural law, which is basically a spin-off of natural rights. And natural rights is a man has a right to, man or woman has a right to life, liberty, and property. And Locke believed that man was inherently good, and Hobbes believed that man was inherently bad, and that there needed to be a Leviathan, was Hobbes's approach, an overarching government to control man, because man was evil. So if you believe in the goodness of humans, then you have to align yourself with John Locke, right? With natural rights, with natural law. And allodial title is what that's about. If I believe in humanity, if I believe that there's good in everybody, this is the way.
I want to take a look at this comment we have on the screen right now from Clintrons. We don't have a allodial title in Australia. We don't have it anywhere. There are some sovereign citizens, some people in sovereign citizen movement that claim that you can go back through in very unique pieces of real estate in the United States or other nations and try to assert allodial title if a piece of property is passed through the same family and blah, 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 that you can track that back. But officially speaking, allodial title is not recognized for personal property or real estate anywhere. So when we use that term, we're reclaiming it because of the unique clarity, the jurisdictional clarity of Pulsechain, because of the unique nature of not just PDAI, but we focus on PDAI because of the stablecoin narrative, because of the unique situation with these assets and the clarity that Richard Hart's court case victory has provided us, and the nature of cryptocurrency itself. Like I said, what does it mean to own cryptocurrency? Oh, well, you have an app on your phone. No, you don't. You don't need that phone. You don't need that app. You need the seed words. We're all self-custody here. And so the seed words, well, now it's that piece of paper. Whoever has that piece of paper. No, you commit it to memory. You own it because you can control it. You can control it anywhere. And that is one of the very few things anywhere in the world of any type, in any industry, of any asset that can actually be owned and possessed in an allodial sense, in a way that it cannot be taken from you. Even without your seed words written down, if you committed it to memory, you could be in a cell in the depths of an Egyptian prison or whatever, and it doesn't matter. You have control of it, and you alone. And that's, of all of the assets, of all of the currency, of all of the industries, there's not many things that fall into that, and this is one.
Yeah. Well, Clintrons, you don't have a allodial title in Australia, but you've got it on Pulsechain, and that's why it matters. you'll be able to store value there. And just like Steve said, so long as you can leave with the shirt on your back, right? And get to a new place, get a laptop, get your seed words into your new laptop, and have access to your funds. They can't take it from you. Right?
They can't seize it at a border. They can't take it at customs. They can't file a subpoena for it. They can't contact your bank. They can't contact Ethereum. They can't contact, and we keep using Ethereum, but any of these other BNB, any of these other chains that have a central headquarters, they can't have it. You want it? Too bad. You don't like what I say? Too bad.
This is always an interesting question. Do you think off-ramping from PDAI will be a future issue if governments see it as a big enough threat and decide to ban any transaction with it? What do you guys think about that?
I have thoughts. I mean, we're talking so futuristically at this point. I mean, I can imagine everything. Like I'm a storyteller. I'm a dreamer, right? I can imagine anything. Is there a world of Pulsechains that primarily transact in PDAI? Is there enough support for that? Are there other entities? That's the cool thing about what we're talking about. Look at Russia and their invasion of Ukraine and the seizure of their however many hundred millions, I don't know, billions of dollars that the
300 billion.
There you go. Bud's got it. 300 billion. 300 billion? Jesus. Funds that just disappeared, right? Well, okay. Well, they're dealing with other people in Bitcoin now. You don't like it? Too bad. Right? You're going to seize me. You're going to ban what? There is a way. If we have creativity and we have Pulsechain on our side, there is a way to get this stuff done. And that's the stuff I'm most interested in. I'm not interested in building machine guns in a shed and bloodshed and loss. I'm interested in, oh, you don't like it? Too bad. That reminds me of when the oh geez, help me out here. I'm thinking back now about 2 years. Richard Hart was talking about Tornado Cash. Yeah. And all of that that was put on the US sanctions list, right alongside of terrorists and black market nuke dealers and all this really for code a couple guys wrote on the internet speech and those guys did jail time and were held and all this and the impact to their families and all this kind of stuff, the horror of all of that. Richard Hart came and stated, he was like, the code they wrote still exists. It's still on the chain. The front end might have been taken down, but the IPFS is still there. So anybody can go, with the proper education, you educate yourself, you can still interact with the code right now, even though it's on the sanctions list. And he pointed out that you need to be, careful doing something like that so you don't get put on a list yourself. But the point is, they can't stop it. We are immutable.
It's Pandora's box, but Tornado Cash was taken off the sanctions list. They won.
Yes,
right?
They did. They were, yeah. But in the meantime, and I think that in a speculative future with, what if somebody bans it? Okay, well, we'll go with somebody else. We'll do something else. We'll find another way because you don't like it. Too bad. That's the future I'm interested in.
So who's going to ban it? Okay, let's say, what are they going to say? The United States government says you can't use it. Why? Right? As individuals, you can choose. You can choose what you do. This isn't going to be an easy path. This is all, I have an idea for an app to build on Pulsechain, but it cannot work until we have a stable, right? And we have to have this stable. We have to have a means of exchange. Like you stated earlier, the Russians are doing trade in Bitcoin. Well, that kind of works, but kind of not. It's really hard to store value in an asset that has that much fluctuation. Okay. So you're muted, Steve-O. You've got to have something that sovereign governments, sovereign wealth funds, hedge funds, they've got to have stability in there. Like if you're buying oil from, let's just use China and Iran. China wants to buy oil from Iran. Well, if they sent them 1,000 Bitcoin and you see a 10% move in Bitcoin, somebody won and lost on that trade, and 10% margins in business like that, you
Huge.
can't handle that slippage. You
Right.
cannot handle that slippage. You've got to have stability. That's why a stable coin is so important. That's why a US peg is so important, right? You've got to give, like in big business, you're talking, 3, 4, 5% margin sometimes. Okay. So if your underlying tradable asset has 10% swings, you go from having the greatest year in the history of business to being completely bankrupt.
Yeah.
Okay. Business doesn't work like that. 10% matters.
Yeah. Heck, sometimes 1% matters. So, yeah, I mean, this is a revolutionaries movement. I think that's probably one of the reasons I'm drawn to it. Yes, it's fun, Nicolas Cage style national treasure conspiracy theory and entertainment. There's a really fun part of that, and we're going to talk about that. We have lots of that at the PDAI conference. Yes, there's a potential 200 plus X to $1. Wouldn't that be amazing? There's a lot of sides to PDAI, and I sometimes get some pushback from some members of the community, like, hey, just let it be a meme, and they love it and they support it and they want it, right? And they don't see the bigger picture, and that's fine. I see them as my PDAI brethren, but I think there's something for everyone, and for at least the three of us on this call, as well as a number of the organizers. And the big thing that we want to communicate here is that PDAI can be much bigger. It is much bigger. The peg is not the end; it's the beginning. And if you're interested in that kind of thing, if you're interested in that movement or that mission, if you're looking for a way to increase privacy, if you're looking for real freaking DeFi, if you're looking for not just technology, taken from us and bastardized from the original intention by governments and corporations outside of even the slim freedoms that we have, check out the PDAI conference, October 10th and 11th. We're going to be talking about this and a lot more, as Steve previously said, with panelists and presenters. But we're going to have all the memes. We're going to have all the music. We're going to have that too, because that's part of our culture. That's part of our shared culture, and it's going to be part of our story. I often think of I come from an arts background, and I often think of the greatest of stakes, part 2, or the highest of stakes, and the documentary film that's going to come out of this PDAI journey is going to be a whopper, and I'm excited for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I feel like probably now we should start to. We don't want to do too much today. We just really want to give a bit of a teaser and to impress upon the importance of people what's actually happening here. And I'm still not sure people really will quite understand for some time. Like, we were talking about this when we had the Australian DeFi community, our very first meeting over the weekend, and how these changes that happen is like a boiling frog. And so what happens with a boiling frog in water is that the temperature rises at such a rate that the frog adjusts its body until eventually the frog just dies, and it doesn't even realize that it's boiling until it's actually boiling, because it's the way its body adjusts to the temperature. And so this to me is more like what the world that we're coming into. I don't see like a necessarily like a tragic V for Vendetta style overthrow the government kind of a future because they're taking away all our rights. It's going to be slow. It's going to be deliberate. And just over a long period of time, you'll look back on 50 years ago and think, oh, they used to live like this. They used to have these kinds of freedoms. But, the jab that we recently had, in a world of CBDCs, if you're not compliant with taking that jab, guess what else you're not going to be getting? You're probably not going to be getting any money from the government. All your money's going to get cut off, just like what they did with the people in Canada. Like, these are the sorts of things that they could do. Is that life or death? Maybe. It could mean life or death in the future. But for now, it's really slow and delicate. But it really feels like this point in time is a critical point in time. Like, even artificial intelligence, people do not realize. I think people do realize, but they don't realize how much power they have to influence it. There's two directions AI is going to go. Like, this is a spiritual war, guys. This is good versus evil. I'm not even kidding. This is literally good versus evil. The evil dark forces want to take AI into their realms. The good forces want to take AI into their realms. So this is where you have to choose your side and pick the side that you're going to be on. Are you going to remain in ignorance and pretend that everything is okay and just consume everything that they give you because it's easy? Or are you going to do the hard thing, do your research, find out what I can actually do to impact the world and be a part of that? Because really, like, this is, I almost feel like we haven't really hit it in this. We've said the things, but we haven't really hit it. But I feel like we've definitely hit it in the past, where it's really sunk in with that message of like, holy shit, this is it, man. Like, if we don't get this right, there's no, you were saying the other day, Bud, it's not a pendulum swing. It's not like, oh, it's going to swing this way, then it will swing back. It's like, no, the train is going. If we miss the train, it's gone, and we're never catching it. AI is just going to consume everything if it goes down the wrong path, and CBDCs will be part of all of that.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the moment for a decentralized blockchain to be birthed, that moment has passed. We will never go back there again. It will not happen. Pulsechain is it. Okay. So there's no do-overs, and you got to have a native decentralized stable that rests upon that decentralized blockchain, right? You know, most people haven't been around long enough or don't pay attention. Like, Ethereum is the only viable chain out there. You know, BSC had all kinds of issues. When Pulsechain was being launched, the original intent was to fork BSC, but it was too buggy. It could not stand up without an oracle, okay? And an oracle is a human, a centralized party that controls everything. That's not decentralized. There's no other blockchains. How many times has Solana had bugs and been knocked down, right? There's not another chain out there that exists besides Ethereum that can stand up on its own. And we are a fork of Ethereum, okay? So technically, no other chain is even viable, right? You have to have an Ethereum fork in order for it to be a decentralized chain. And we've already moved past the moment in history for a decentralized chain to be birthed. And if we as a community don't recognize this, there's never going to be another chance. This really is it. And when you start to fold in what's coming with AI, like what Steven said, and you have, what is AI on a path of evil, right? Like, go ahead, Steven.
It's also the fact that the evil just doesn't actually give a shit about you. That's the thing. So when Bud is talking about this philosophical debate between, who did you say, John Locke and the other guy, like, evil doesn't actually care about you. They only care about themselves and their family, or themselves and their country. That is evil. That's self-centeredness, which is a representation of evil. If you only care about yourself and your family, if you only care about your country, you're in the evil box as far as I'm concerned. You are possessed by evil spirits. And so that has nothing to do with humanity. Humanity should be, like, good AI should be caring about humanity, not about these people or those people. Like, this is, if it gets trained on the wrong data, if it gets trained on just filthy human rotten minds, then it is bad. It is going to be very, 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 very bad. As bad as they're all saying it's going to be. Sorry to interrupt, Bud.
No, you're fine. Yeah, it's a very important point. And, you know, philosophically, where I'm at, I spend a lot of time looking at different religions, different philosophy. You know, I've read, whether it was Taoism, postmodernism, all of it. I've read all of it to try to figure out this life. And where I landed is it leans more toward a Taoist thought process, a Taoist way of looking at the world. And I truly believe that God is in you, every single one of you. He's all around you. He's in me. If I harm you, I'm harming myself. That is the Christ light, right? There is a universal consciousness. There is a power of prayer. There is a power of manifestation that all of us have inside of us. And the stronger, the more that we come together, the more that we push this, the more powerful we become, right? Every single human has value. Every single person is the same. And together we can build this future. But we have to start talking about it. We have to recognize that there's evil forces that are trying to take us down into a place that says, this person doesn't matter, so we drop bombs on them, right? These people over here don't matter because I matter. No, we're all the same. We're all children of whatever you want to call it, God, the universe. We're all infinite spirits having an experience, and we can make this world what we want it to be.
Amen, bud. That's good messaging.
Lovely
I want to talk about this really quick before we go, Steve, because I think we're kind of coming up on time.
Yeah, so as I just said in the private chat, Steve, so we'll just round everything up now. So I'll just basically share the schedule now, and maybe we'll actually say what you want to say, and I'll get the schedule ready.
Yeah, I just thought briefly if each of us wanted to talk about this. Gents, Hexagon Lost in Asia says, gents, have you thought about another coin getting pegged on Pulsechain or a fork with the stable coin on that network, a network that looks like Tornado Cash? And I wonder why. What is? I think that the central theme of this is why PDAI. Why is PDAI special? Why couldn't we have another token on Pulsechain? Bud, what's your thoughts, real quick, like 30 seconds?
Whoever spins it up's gonna get killed.
But well, that's mine. What's the? Somebody has to make it. That's the uniqueness of PDAI. It's not made, right? Where's the team? No one's putting themselves at risk for PDAI. As far as a target on their back. Steve, what's your thoughts here? Why is PDAI special?
I've thought about this a lot, and I really think it's something that we can address in the debate, because I think it's a very valid question. Why? What is special and unique about PDAI that makes it something that we should be getting behind? So, yeah, definitely, that will more than likely be a question in the debate section. So, awesome. Okay, and on that also, so we'll go through the schedule here. All right, so this is added to the stage. All right, so I gotta get used to doing these cute little things.
Nice. Yeah, that's a creative team coming through strong. Those are nice, aren't they?
That's beautiful. Yeah. So someone's started to make all these little documents for us. So yeah, we're going to try and make it as interesting as possible. So this schedule is just fluid, but we're trying to make it fun, positive, informative. But it should be for people who are noobs and for supporters as well. So we want to try and make it multi-sensory, engaging, dynamic. So the schedule could change, but just very roughly, we're going to start at 4 p.m. These are all in EST, US EST times. On the 10th of October, then we're going to have the opening panel at 4:30 p.m. So your friend Somi, there's going to be us three guys, and then all the speakers who've been invited are welcome to join in there. So we're going to let Somi do his presentation at the start, and then we're going to go from there. And this will go for, I'd say, several hours, as they usually do when we get together like this. And then we're going to have an open mic AMA. So anyone from the community is welcome to join for an hour and ask questions. So these types of questions, if people want to ask, or if there's lots of repeated questions in the chat, we can start to answer those questions. And then at 9 p.m., we're going to do the debate. So there's going to be Steve here and Bud, and then there's going to be, so they're on the pro side, and then on the anti side is Giga and Execute, and then I'll be the moderator. And then we're going to close at 11 p.m. And so hopefully Zach will be able to join us by then, but we'll see. And then the second day, October 11th, 10 a.m. So we're going to start again with something similar to this, just setting the scene of the importance of PDAI. Then we're going to have a positive PDAI panel. So we're going to see, some of the names here: Freedom 77, Khaled on crypto, Vibra, Adam, Dread AI, some new people that I have only just met. So Anders from Love.io, King Daniel wants to come and speak on that. King Arthur wants to come and speak on that. So I couldn't fit all the names there, but all the speakers are welcome to join. So there's 15 people at a time. So that will go for a number of hours. Then we're going to do PDAI history. So hodlonomics, potentially Target Crypto King. And then other speakers are welcome. And then also we're going to have the conspiracy law. I know a lot of people like this. Royson, so Nathan, Crusher Trades. Then we're going to do RH conviction. So someone who's an outsider's perspective and how they've come to learn about Richard Heart and become bullish on Richard Heart and the Pulsechain ecosystem. So obviously this is built on Pulsechain. So we do want to pay our respects to Richard Heart, who put all this together. So Arthur will join that as well. And then again, other speakers are welcome. And then we're going to do the L2/maker/peg theory. Hopefully Cash Money will be able to join. Decentralized Me will also be there, and Royson. And then we're going to be doing a little video that I recorded today about how to use the blockchain to verify these things. So I just recorded this with 0x Daredevil today. So he's blind. He's been blind since he was 20. He's 45 years old now. He's got screen readers, and he's literally one of the best PDAI blockchain analysts because he comes from a research background. So he even taught me things about using AI in the blockchain that made it a lot easier than I thought it would be. So then we're going to do basically the quote-unquote Atropa/peg theory, but it's not really a peg theory when it comes to Atropa, but we're going to look at it through the lens of MX DAI and the V3 minters. So we're going to have a look at PDAI, the Atropa perspective of PDAI. And then we're going to have, this is one thing that I'm very interested in, the PDAI and AI remote viewing. So she has done remote viewing on a PDAI egregore. So we're going to go and explore this for that hour. And then we're going to finish up with open mic and what PDAI will become. And then the whole community can join at that point. It's just going to be good vibes all around. So then again, with the PDAI conference debate. So on the PDAI conferences, Twitter account. So if you're not following it, I think it might be on the screen by now. But basically, you can go there and ask questions. What questions do you want to hear answered? So again, I'll be the moderator. I'll put those questions together. I'm going to do it by putting research together through Grok, by listening to what the community wants, by even going over some of the questions here and basically getting the best kinds of questions that we can ask. So I'll have a list of questions that we can really debate over in that particular point in time. And then the next day, when the PDAI Positive crew comes on, they can really see how they felt about it as well. So yeah, check this out. And I'll probably put the link in the description after this. Also, Steve, if you want to bring those QR codes up.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Steve.
So we're going to do these. So we've got obviously the donation wallet address, but don't look at it like a donation wallet. Look at it as giving. The kind of mindset that we're trying to nurture here is one of giving. In a world of giving, everybody has more than they need. In a world of taking, which is the world that we're currently living in, nobody ever has enough because everybody's trying to take it from everybody else. But when you're trying to give everything you have to everybody else, then collectively, everybody has a lot more than they had originally. Just mathematically and logically, it is a superior economic logic. But we're not living like this because we're living in a world that is corrupted to the core with evil that only wants to take. So we're really trying to build something different with a new mindset, with a God-given consciousness and a God-given mindset. So the act of giving, it's not about donating, it's about giving. And you're giving something that contributes to the whole. So we have these mugs, these limited edition mugs that will get taken down after the conference with Liberty Swap and Zero Trust. So check it all out. Check out the store. And then also this very last, I won't go into all these private chats there, but I don't have it there, but I'll put it up there. So Tucker Carlson, check out the Tucker Carlson Good versus Evil as well. So all right, that's all I wanted to share. So
yeah, this just to wrap up on that, Steve, I just wanted to show there to talk a bit more that donation wallet. I want to point out none of the volunteers, none of the speakers, none of the presenters are being paid. Everyone's a volunteer here. That donation wallet, that gifting wallet, as Steve mentioned, that is on the screen right now. If you want to send that, we're primarily using those funds for promotion on Twitter. We're using the X Twitter badges campaign. You can find out more about that on our X at PDAI_conference. And then that QR code that's up there right now is, Steve mentioned those mugs, but there's a lot more. We got this sweet hat that I got. I got my sweet PDAI hat, my PDAI Conference hat. There's stickers, there's coasters, there's all sorts of stuff. If we want you to have this. That's the thing. We want to help promote this message, and if a hat or a mug is the best way for you to do that, that's great. If we believe it's through word of mouth, and we believe it's through community, which is why we made the choices we've made. So those are there for you if you feel like giving, and yeah, that's all I wanted to contribute.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Bud. Any last words before we close up the stream?
I'll see you all in a couple days.
Yeah,
that's it.
PDAI Conference, October 10th and 11th, starting at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
That's it, boys. And just on the way out, we'll play a little teaser, and stay tuned. So as soon as these little videos are over, the stream will end. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining, contributing. Please share it around. Keep spreading the word. And please really think about what this means. What does it actually mean to you? What does PDAI mean to you? Is it really as important as what we're trying to say? And if it's not, then why? Why is it not that important to you? Really think about what your future looks like with or without this. So let's get into this clip, and everybody have a good day, and we'll see you on the 10th of the 10th.
There's no exploit. RH is just messing around. What happened is 4 million was extracted, sent off chain. Don't you guys find this funny? Right when Tornado Cash gets taken off the US sanction list, the OA is dumping PDAI. So that money is getting put into Tornado Cash. It's coming into new wallets, coming back on chain. MakerDAO, it needs to have its books cleared. We know he has the majority supply. If he can't use it, or it wouldn't be decentralized. How to transfer the keys? By diluting the MakerDAO supply, so the other 200 wallets can pick up the supply from auction, diluting his supply, giving control to the other wallets. So he posed questions. Is this guy minting PDAI for free and dumping it on the community? Question mark. Does this guy have some magic key? Question mark. Sell PDAI? Question mark. And then he posts the link to DBank, to the transaction list. If you go look at the blockchain, what do you see, man? He answers he answers the questions he posted for the second time, and he buys nope. That's the answers, bro. Blockchain is speech, and he purchases nope.
Oh, hey, sorry.
Hey.
What do you do for a living?
I am a crypto investor.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Have a great day.
Oh.
I'm pretty rich. Have a great day.
Let's go, baby. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Bud. Thank you, everybody. Take care.